This episode of Bullet Heaven was made possible with a copy of the game provided by Studio Evil.
Warning, incoming.
We've taken a look at a few games that use the Defender formula here on Bullet Heaven, and the general consensus is the formula works fairly well. Games like AquaKitty, Milkmine Defender, and Diadra Empty did a great job of expanding on the original Defender's mechanics, and we liked both a fair bit. Now another game looks to shake up the formula on Nintendo Switch. Well, kind of. Syder Reloaded is a new revised version of Syder Arcade by Studio Evil, released to the Nintendo Switch on March 13th, 2020. Its source material, Syder Arcade, was released to PC all the way back in 2012. So how does Syder Reloaded fare? Let's take a closer look. Syder Reloaded is a pretty straightforward game. On the outset, a small selection of ships is available, but more can be unlocked under certain conditions throughout the game. All of the stages will be visible from the story mode's main menu, and the player has the choice to start from any one, so long as the stage has been cleared previously. The control scheme is fairly simple here. Players move their chosen ship with the left analog stick or the D-pad. Movement with the analog stick is true analog, allowing players to fine-tune their speed, while the D-pad is all or nothing in terms of movement rate. The player's ship will also accelerate when moving in a single direction for a prolonged period of time for faster travel. The direction players will face will be locked, allowing for players to defensively maneuver as they attack their foes. Since enemy opposition will occur from both sides of the stage though, players are able to flip the side of the screen their fighter faces with the press of a button. The B, X, Z, and ZR buttons all allow for players to flip their ship's direction at any time. Pressing the A or Y buttons will allow players to fire their weaponry. Supplemental firepower like plasma shots, missiles, drones, side and rear shots, and more can be acquired as well, allowing players to really dish the pain as more are collected. Many of these can even be upgraded for even more power. Better still, many of these weapons are also stackable, meaning that more than one type of weapon is fired at a time. Players will also be able to fill a blue gauge that allows for a special super attack to be deployed by pressing the L or ZL buttons. This special attack is often very powerful, and varies by the chosen ship. Supercharged lasers, drone formations, missile salvos, and more can be launched to deal some pretty heavy damage in a pinch or to clear out a swath of unfortunate popcorn enemies. The more enemies are destroyed, the faster the gauge will replenish to be used again. Players can also fill the gauge with bonus pickups or instantly fill the special gauge by collecting a cube with a star on it. Depending on the difficulty, players will take more or less damage from enemies or their attacks. If players are hit, a portion of their orange armor gauge will be depleted. This gauge can also be recovered through bonus pickups or by picking up a repair cube indicated with a wrench. Syder Reloaded has a campaign that weighs in at 6 stages, and each lasts a decent while. The player's objectives vary from mission to mission. Some stages are escort-oriented while others have specific targets. We can't really help but feel that the game is only about half there though. Games in which the player can start on any stage they have completed often have in excess of 10 stages to take on with a little more variety. What's here is still pretty good though, we just kinda wish there was more to it. With 4 difficulties, players of any kind should be able to get a decent 1cc out of the game, though advanced players will still encounter some pretty heavy and challenging resistance in later stages. This makes Syder Reloaded a very approachable game for newcomers, yet satisfying for veterans. And there's more. Survival mode tasks players with lasting as long as possible against endless and increasingly difficult waves of enemies, while training modes have players racing against the clock to the end of an ice canyon. A secondary training mode also allows players to practice with various weapon loadouts. There's a decent amount of game to play here, and all of the included modes, save for the firing range, feature online leaderboards for players to stack themselves up against others around the world. Though the Defender formula does apply in that Syder Reloaded allows players to move and attack in 2 directions, complete with a radar that shows players where their opposition lies, there are also stark differences. Namely, there are limits to where the stages can be traveled to, rather than looping endlessly. Players also need to change their shooting direction manually rather than through simple direction of movement. So is it fun? Short answer, yes, but there are some issues that we found. This is a pretty graphically intensive game, and the frame rates are going to dip very often as a result. Syder Reloaded also needed to be, reloaded when the game crashed uploading a score to the leaderboards, which, never actually took. In the Ice Canyon stage during the main campaign, there was a time where our ship respawned further down the line, directly into a spire of ice, killing us instantly again. The final boss encounter had us wanting a bit more out of the game too. Without getting too spoilery, it's basically just an oversized turret with spinning openings and a very simple core. Kind of meh. Otherwise, the control is fine, and the action, while marred by some serious dips in performance thanks to the less than powerful nature of the Switch, can be pretty intense. We would venture to guess that this game would be a much better fit on the PlayStation 4 or PC, if only to get a solid 60 frames per second out of it. We also wish there was more of it, but aiming for a 1cc would be a much longer task. Thankfully, having a wide variety of more powerful ships to unlock also enhances the game's replay. So for what it is, yeah, we did enjoy our time with it. Of course, another big reason for that is in Syder Reloaded's scoring. Blasting stuff away will get a player's score going, but a couple of major factors will contribute to getting the highest scores in Syder Reloaded. Firstly, players can build up a sizable combo multiplier that not only increases kill amounts, but also bonus points as well. Pickups can be increased dramatically in value with a multiplier that can be increased all the way up to 99 times through proper enemy kills and chaining. Displayed in the top right-hand corner of the screen, a small gauge will show how much time is left in the chain, and when it depletes, the multiplier will be reduced all the way down to 1 times. Picking up bonus drops will maintain this combo, but getting hit regardless of how much time is left in the gauge will drop the whole combo down to 1 times instantly. There's more. As players progress through each stage, a number of stage-by-stage mini-achievements will be unlocked. Each of these can have multiple levels depending on player performance in the stage in question. All of these are tallied up at the end of the stage to give the player a significant bonus payout, but this isn't all that will be taken into account when the bonus is tallied. Depending on the player's difficulty level, the bonus will be greatly affected. Playing on Tourist, for example, will apply a 0.1 times multiplier, effectively reducing whatever bonus the player obtained to 1/10 of its potential value. The standard difficulty, Young Gun, applies a 0.25 times multiplier, and Arcade Master will leave the bonus intact with a 1 times multiplier. But the hardest difficulty, Mystic, will boost the value by 5 times. All of this is for naught if the player takes too long on the stage though. How long is too long? Who really knows, but a 0.00 multiplier is applied when it happens. And you all know what 10 trillion times 0 is. This makes for a pretty decent risk-reward and challenges players to get better and more efficient with any one playthrough to get the best point payouts throughout the game. Syder's online leaderboards don't take the player's difficulty into account, so scores from any difficulty will be ranked against those with the skill to get the best bonuses in higher difficulty modes. This may seem a little on the not-so-great side, but in the grand scheme of things, we feel a system like this is actually a great motivator. After all, players wondering why they can't break the top 200 on easy difficulties will surely work at the more difficult options to climb the ranks. An additional leaderboard has yet to open as well, giving us hope that more substance has yet to appear in this release as of this review. But it could also just be for the firing range. One final note, different difficulties have different extend scores, so it will be easier or harder to get an extend based on what difficulty is being played. Syder Reloaded is a game that we were kind of skeptical about, especially with the kind of visuals we saw in Syder Arcade for PC. This is a very graphics-intensive title, which definitely gave it a very distinct identity when it was first released in 2012. On the Switch, Syder Reloaded does seem scaled back in terms of graphical prowess. There doesn't seem to be as much going on in the background, and the lighting is less intense, but given the hardware that it's running on, Syder Reloaded still looks pretty darn good. The trade-off is that while some portions run at a decent 60 frames per second, it often dips to much lower frame rates, which can be problematic in really hairy situations, especially during survival runs. The detail is pretty great though. Sharp and clear, the player's ships in specific are modeled well and sport all kinds of cool details. But most of the enemies lack the same kind of flair, and the boss encounters just feel like extensions of the stage. There really aren't enough great, huge ships to destroy here, which sort of reinforces the feeling that there should have been more stages or more bosses to make this game feel truly fleshed out. On the sound front, Syder Reloaded has a soundtrack that matches the action and pace on screen with great sound effects to match. Good though they are for their applied use, there also aren't so many standouts in Syder Reloaded, save for the stage end theme, which features awesome downsampled synthesized VO clips. Meanwhile, Syder Reloaded's HUD, UI elements, and menus make general navigation pretty simple, and a number of filters can also be applied to the visuals to give them a number of faux retro aesthetics. Granted, the regular modern motif is all we really cared to use. The rest look pretty garish and could easily have hampered the action. So when it all comes together, how does Syder Reloaded stack up? Let's take a look. The controls in Syder Reloaded are functional and solid. When things chunk up with extreme slowdown though, they can be affected greatly. Syder Reloaded can be as easy or as hard as players want, though some ships require a bit of skill on higher difficulties to unlock. With only 6 stages and a small handful of extra modes, it really feels as if there should have been much more to Syder Reloaded. Visually, Syder Reloaded is top-notch on the Switch, but it comes at the cost of some really gnarly slowdown. PlayStation 4 might have been a better platform in this regard. The music and sound in Syder Reloaded is great for their applied use, but not much outside of the stage and bonus theme sticks out for us. The overall structure and gameplay of Syder Reloaded is pretty basic in the grand scheme of things. Having all difficulties rank on the same leaderboard is an interesting motivator to get better, and the unlockable ship challenges do a good job of replacing achievements on the Switch. Weighing in at about $12 US, Syder Reloaded offers a good amount of playtime for its price, especially for those looking to attack the online leaderboards. With its kind of Defender formula and great scoring chops, we enjoyed our time with Syder Reloaded. But it also leaves quite a bit to be desired, especially with regards to the main campaign's lack of epic encounters and bosses. It's still worth more than a look, especially for score chasers, so Syder Reloaded gets a 3.75 out of 5. You can get Syder Reloaded on the Nintendo eShop for about $12 US. Well, that one had some decent moments, but if only there was more to it. Next up, we have the Gigantic Army physical release for Nintendo Switch, followed by the long-awaited STG Chronicles number 7. See you all in the next episode.
Be sure to like, comment, and of course, subscribe. We finally got a copy of Hyperduel for the Sega Saturn, and we'll be reviewing it once we hit 10,000 subscribers.